Hello guys, it is Gate Theories here, and ever since the brand new Pixar film Luca came out, I have been obsessed with this film and wondering how it can tie into all of the other Pixar films. But this film also brings another opportunity because it also introduces a new young character, and as we all know, that means we have to try and work out who their monster is. On this channel, we've done so many of these, ranging from Bonnie from Toy Story 3, to Violet from The Incredibles, to Miguel from Coco, and even to Darla from Finding Nemo. But since Luca has came out, it means now we can speculate who Luca's monster is, so let's get into it. But before we go any further, please make sure that you've clicked that red subscribe button down below and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified every time we make a brand new Pixar video. Firstly, let's just get something out of the way. How could Luca have a monster when he is already a sea monster? Well, by the end of the film, we see Luca stay in human form and decide to move away to go to school. And I reckon that's when a monster would have came into his room at night and tried to scare him, as the monsters will want to scare as many children as possible. Plus, Luca won't want his sea monster identity found out, so to the monsters, he might just seem like a normal kid. So, how do we find out who his monster is? As unfortunately we can't exactly look for a door since we have no clue what Luca's new room looks like. Instead, let's look at some of Luca's fears, because as Dean Hardscrabble describes in Monsters University, the scarer and the type of scare you use depends on the child's fear. It's why we see Mike doing many different scare poses when revising for his exam, as you need specific scare for a specific child. So, what are Luca's fears? Well, firstly, let's just get the blatantly obvious one out of the way. He is a sea monster and doesn't want to be found out. Throughout the film, he goes through drastic measures with Alberto to make sure his identity is kept a secret. Now, at the end of the film, of course, he realizes he can show the world who he is and that he is a sea monster, but as his grandma puts it,
some people, they'll never accept him. But some will. And he seems to know how to find the good one.
It just shows that he is still going to have to be careful, especially when going to a new school that isn't just a small coastal town, so I reckon that this fear will still be relevant. But I'd also say he has another fear. Again, this has probably been decreased because of the film's events, but the worry might still be there, and that is living with his uncle down at the bottom of the ocean. His parents may have the confidence in Luca that he won't be captured, but they're still not 100% certain. If at Luca's school something bad was going to happen, they'd definitely be sending him straight back home. And I don't think it's necessarily Luca's uncle he's scared of, but more of having to go to the bottom of the ocean. There's a reason why Luca loves the surface so much. It's open and sunny and bright. It's a very sharp contrast to the bottom of the ocean, which is the complete opposite. It's dark and it's lonely. So I'm going to say the dark is his fear as well. But now we need to look at which generation of scarers will be scaring Luca. If we say that the time in the human world and the monster world run parallel to each other, and Luca takes place in the 50s, then we need the monsters who were scaring children around that time. In Monsters Inc., we get a rough estimate as to when they're scaring from Mike's scare report, where in the corner it says they're scaring in the year 1999 in the human world. This means we're looking at scarers from when Mike was around a child and maybe even younger than that. And unfortunately, we don't really have that many in lots of detail. We have Dean Hardscrabble and we have Frank McKay, but that's about it. Now, both of these are top-level scarers, would both be in the top of their leaderboards during their scaring age, but do they fit with Luca's description? Frank McKay doesn't look like it. Apart from having the ability to disappear easily and being frightening, if Luca was to randomly turn into a sea monster during the scare, I'm not sure how Frank would react. On the other hand, Dean Hardscrabble is a different question. She has broken the all-time scare record and has one thing that Frank doesn't, and that is the dark. As we said before, one of Luca's fears is going to the bottom of the ocean where it is nothing but pitch black, and the first time that we are ever introduced to Dean Hardscrabble is when she flies into the lecture room in Monsters University and closes all of the curtains with her large wings, making it dark. Hardscrabble uses the dark to her advantage when scaring, so she seemed like the perfect candidate to scare Luca. However, there is only one minor problem with having Dean Hardscrabble as Luca's monster, and it's not even really about Luca, but rather about Dean Hardscrabble herself. At the end of Monsters University, she is so shocked by how Mike and Sully managed to scare adults and generate so much scream power that it goes out of the door and ends up filling cans all around the university. And the reason why she's so shocked is because she has never witnessed anything before that would ever surprise her. As she says here,
The two of you did something together that no one has ever done before. You surprised me.
And unfortunately, this is where we hit a brick wall with Hardscrabble being Luca's monster, because if Luca was to ever show his monster, his sea monster form, it would definitely at least surprise the monster. Yet Hardscrabble makes it very clear in all of her professional career she has never seen anything that has surprised her. And I think it's really unrealistic to assume a human turning into a monster wouldn't surprise her even a little bit. So I was back to square one when I decided to look at it from a different angle. Instead of looking at what Luca is scared of, maybe we should look at how Luca could scare the monsters. Because through all of this, we have to remember that Luca is a sea monster, and if a monster happened to find this out, then maybe they'd even be scared of Luca. And that's when I came to our monster, none other than Henry J. Waternoose himself, the third CEO of Monsters Incorporated after the company had been in the family for 3 generations. And this actually makes more sense than you might first think. Firstly, let's deal with the timeline. By the events of Monsters Inc., which we said takes place in 1999 in the human world, Mr. Waternoose is actually confirmed to be well over 100 years old, as he's inherited the company when he was 142. We've also seen at the end of Monsters University a picture of the younger Mr. Waternoose when Mike and Sully first started working as a scarer. This could mean that by the time of Monsters Inc., he might be somewhere like 150 to 170 years old, so I think it's safe to say he definitely would have been the right age to be scaring children in the 50s. Next, was Mr. Waternoose actually a scarer or just the head of the company? Well, it's never fully confirmed, but through Sully's conversations with him, it seems likely. Sully goes on as if Mr. Waternoose trained him to become a better scarer, mentioning scare tactics such as
Start out with the old Waternoose jump and growl. Oh, yeah, now that's my boy.
suggesting Mr. Waternoose created them while scaring. Not to mention, before the company was passed down, Waternoose's father probably wanted to make sure the company is in good hands, so would have probably wanted an expert scarer in charge. And since his father and grandfather owned the company, it would be pretty easy for Mr. Waternoose to become a young scarer before he got control. But the big one reason why Mr. Waternoose fits so well of being Luca's monster is because of his own fears. Throughout all of Monsters Inc., he is so worried by the threat of children not becoming scared anymore that he's willing to take drastic measures such as kidnapping children to make sure that the company doesn't die out. But the main issue he has with this crisis is he believes human children are toxic. The first time we ever see the guy is when he's talking about how humans are so dangerous, but we've never really even gotten an idea as to where this fear came from.
A single touch could kill you.
Everyone just seems to trust that Mr. Waternoose is right and that children are toxic, but as we learn from Boo, they clearly aren't. So where did this fear come from, and why is Mr. Waternoose so certain even though children clearly are not toxic? And I think Luca gives us the answer. If Mr. Waternoose is Luca's monster, then I'm sure Luca at some point would have revealed who he was as purely a defense mechanism. Remember, he doesn't have to be in a full pool of water, as we've seen from the dinner scene. All he needs is a bit of water, and then the part of his body will change. If Mr. Waternoose saw this, then it was sure to scar him for the rest of his life, and be a very good reason as to why he thinks children are toxic, and why he's so worried about the energy crisis, as he's literally seen a child turn into a monster on the other side in the human world. Maybe he's worried that the reason why kids aren't getting as scared nowadays is because he thinks all the kids are like Luca and can turn into monsters themselves if they want to. And to further add to this, Mr. Waternoose is sort of like an evolved crab-like creature, and if we're looking back at Luca's fears again, crabs can eat fish and other sea creatures, and can live in very extreme environments under the ocean, such as the bottom of the sea, linking back to Luca's fears. And finally, as a fun little Easter egg, Luca's last name is Paguro, which in Italian translates to hermit crab, which I just think is a great coincidence if Mr. Waternoose is his monster. But anyway guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, make sure that you smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let us know down below in the comments what you think of this. Do you reckon that Mr. Waternoose might be Luca's monster, or do you think it might be Dean Hardscrabble, or do you think it's just someone that I haven't mentioned in this video and it might be someone completely different? Let me know down below in the comments. And do you actually think he actually has a monster? Because he is the sea monster himself. Do you reckon the monsters would risk it? I don't know. But let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. And as always, we've been here on Gate of Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.